Today I'm going to be talking about drawing the human head, talking about my approach to drawing the human head and neck, and how I approach studying the human head and neck, and the breakdowns that I do whenever I'm drawing a complex angle of the human head. So I'm going to also talk about the basic shapes that I use when drawing. When I was talking about the art fundamentals, one thing I usually mentioned a lot was basic shapes. And with our circles, our triangles, our squares or cubes, and our cylinders as well. These basic shapes are very important whenever you are breaking down any basic structure, because these are what you are going to use to simplify complex angles of shapes whenever you're drawing. So when you look at things like figure drawing and portraits, um, whether you're aiming for resemblance or not, these basic shapes are very essential when you're doing that. So that is actually one of the major things that I learned about drawing in general, and I've used these basic shapes to draw everything that I know. So I'm going to start with the head. I have some references with me here as well that are going to be aiding me in my process, because whenever I do studies and whenever I draw in general, I like having references, in as much as when it's time to do things like storyboarding, I have to rely on what I've studied and my skill in general to work. But when I'm studying, I like using references because I always find that there is always something that I'm lacking or that I don't know. I tend to learn something new every time that I approach study with references. When drawing the head, the basic shape we're looking at is a circle or a sphere or an ovoid shape and a box. Or a wedge shape or wedge, something like this. This is because when we're looking at drawing the head, what I focus on is the androlumis planes of the face, and we're going to talk about the studies later. But if you want to get better at drawing the head, you have to do score studies. You have to be able to understand what's going on beneath the skin, right, so that you can then approach that. So without going into the score, we're going to look at these simple shapes first of all. So the first thing we are looking at is we are going to have our sphere, and then our box shape. Then we'll have our center line, depending on where the head is facing. This is one exercise you can always practice, depending on where the head is facing. So that head is facing the three-quarter angle. If we look at another shape, another head, let's say it's facing the front, it's going to be like this. If the head is facing angle upwards, it's going to be something like this. And this is if it's facing downwards, it's going to be like this. All right. So this center line in particular is going to help with separating the features of the face. So this center line over here is the brow line. Is the brow line, and it's going to help you when you're breaking down, the planes of the face, and when you're placing things in order. So this ball over here is just representing our cranium. It's representing our cranium, and where our hairline is going to be and whatnot. So this is the first shape. Practicing this in different angles is going to be very helpful, because it's going to help you place where the head is going to be. The next thing will be to add the box, right? So, or the wedge shape. So what some people do is that they could either just draw the head like a box. Yeah, this is very helpful. So the head in a 3/4 angle like a box. So they place this and they will use this to demarcate the areas of the face. So this could be your nose. Did I do that well? This this could be your nose, and this could be your mouth, and your eyes will be here, and then you place your ear like this, and this could be front view of the box you're drawing. Where you put your brow line and eye, and you put your nose, and then you put your mouth. Side view, and then you could also do different angles as well. Your eyes, your nose, and then your mouth. And same here, your eyes, your nose, and then your mouth. So using this simple box can be helpful, and the box also, or wedge shape, can be added when you draw, the cranium. This, and you add your center line like this, and then you add that wedge shape, which is going to be like this. Yeah, something like this. You could do that, or you could do your cranium like this, and then just put your box like this, and then you figure it out. Later. Add your center line, and let it go down through, because this circle is just representing our cranium, just representing our upper ball, and this red over here is representing our mandible, our maxilla, and like our teeth, our mouth, and the other parts of our face. So you could add it here like this, and then you have your head. So you can see how when you practice these shapes like this, you just get better at approaching any head. You could use this and you could start your portraits. And if you are just starting out, I would say that once you are practicing this basic shape, when you are drawing them, and let's say you have this itch to suddenly draw from a real reference, don't try to be a human pantograph, right? Don't try to draw exactly what you are looking at. Don't just try to get the basic structure, try to get the basic placements of the human features, or the facial features first, before then, because eventually you're going to get good the more you do it. So that is just what I would say about that. Drawing the head, you have to practice this. Don't just you have to practice this over and over again. Just look at the Andrew Loomis How to Draw the Head, but I'm just talking briefly about this. So yeah, that's it for the basic shape. You have to always put your center line, because that's what's going to guide you. The the next thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about drawing the skull. Like, you need to practice drawing the skull, because the skull is very important for the entire placement of the head. You could have this shape on lock, but you need to like taking it to the next level. Learning this could be level 1, right? Learning this could be level 1, and then level 2 would be probably, let's say, the skull, right? The skull. So learning this basic shape is level 1, and learning level 2 will be the skull, learning the skull. And When I say skull, I actually mean skull. So you take a reference, and with this simple, we're applying this knowledge that we've learned here, like everything we've learned here, like this, we're going to apply this to the skull. That's how I would approach learning. So we'll have our sphere, and then we'll have our box. You could use just the box, whatever. We'll have our, just like this. And then we'll have our skull like this. Yeah, something like this. Yeah, this is just a simplified skull. This is just a simplified skull. But if you were to draw, you would need to get a real life skull next to you and actually draw. But this is just a simplified skull. And because I have this simplified skull in my head, and I know, like, you see how it has helped me with the placement, because I'm seeing where we have the eye socket, the orbit, I have the zygomatic arc, I have the mandible, the maxilla, I have like the places that the facial features, like whenever I look at any reference is supposed to go. I can then apply like the eye. I can then apply the eye. I can apply the eye, my eyebrow. I can do my nose, the nose of the character. I can do the mouth of the character very easily. And the proportions are going to be accurate in the process. Let's just put the ear here like this. That's better. Yeah, this is not a very good looking image, but you get what I mean. So because I have the skull in my head, the basic structure of the skull, I can work with this. So like the parts of the skull we're going to be looking at is, we're going to have our cranium, which is this part over here, this circle over here, our cranium. And always remember to put your center line. And to decide, the thing about the skull is to decide it's kind of like an oval shape. So it's not going to be like a complete sphere. It's not going to be a sphere like this. You're going to have to use this shape because it is longer to the side. If you look at your head, let's say you have a shaped head like mine, and you look to the side, you're going to see that it's not small, it's quite long. So we're looking at the cranium. You're looking at the zygomatic bone. The zygomatic bone is, or the zygomatic arc is when you look at a skull. Let me get a reference for a real skull. When you're looking at a skull like this, what am I doing, man? I'm so scattered, brain. This over here, this thing over here, this This guy over here is the zygomatic arc. This thing over here, let me highlight it. This thing over here where we see the cheek, this thing that is for the cheekbone, that is our zygomatic arc over here like this. These are zygomatic arc. It's another shape to remember. Zygomatic arc. Is that H? Zygomatic arc. The next thing is the nostrils or the nasal bone. Our nasal bone is over here. This is our glabella. But then our nasal bone is that little space over here before we have this space in here for this is our nasal bone. It is important because when you look at it from the side view, you're going to see how it pokes out like this, and it's going to help with drawing, attaching the rest of the nose when you are drawing. This here is our zygomatic arc. And then we'll have our maxilla. Our maxilla is that like part that covers the nose. It's this part. Let me draw it here. It's this part that holds this nose, this space for our nose here. Is this part here that holds space for our nose. Let me draw it in a full score. So we have our basic shape here, and then we have our zygomatic arc like this. Then we're going to have this shape here for the skull. Now this thing over here, let's use this shape over here in pink. This is our maxilla. It's where you also find like our upper jaw, and you also find like the, how would I put it, the slope that makes up the nose. Let's say this is let's say I'm doing a basic structure of the nose over here, and then you're going to see our maxilla. This encompasses our maxilla. Then we have our filtrum over here, and then our mouth over here. This dude over here is our maxilla, and that's what's going on. That's what's going on here. And then of course our upper jaw, and then we'll put the teeth. Like this. Anyways, I over exaggerated it, but you get what I mean. That's the maxilla. That's the maxilla, very important. And then our mandible. Our mandible is the lower jaw. Some people, when you are drawing the mouth, like, and you want to draw the upper and lower jaw, you could use like a cylinder. You could use a cylinder to represent that, or like a barrel. uh, and that's where you kind of use that to represent the upper and lower jaw, because that's how where you're going to put the teeth, the upper teeth, and then the lower teeth, and you see how simple it's going to be. And with that, you can just draw your mouth. You can just draw your mouth just like that, simple. But we are focusing on the skull. So we have the upper and lower jaw, and you can use a cylinder for that shape. Basically, is what I'm trying to say. So let's say you have your skull like this, then you have your this here. You could use a cylinder to just represent this area that you're drawing over here, just like this, and it will be easier to draw when you look at different angles, because drawing it in just this angle is quite easy. But when you begin to draw it in, when you start facing different angles of the skull, you start approaching the skull in like an up view, warm eye, top and bottom, warm eye view of the head, you're going to see that it is not necessarily easy to kind of approach the skull in that angle. It's a bit, difficult. It's a bit difficult, and you kind of need, shapes, these basic shapes like this to help you, place, this like to help you place the skulls quite easily, so that you can then continue with your work and whatnot. So basic shapes very important, and learning the skull is very important, because it just helps you break down, and you just have an instinctive knowledge of where to place each features of the face, because you kind of know what's going on here in different areas of the face. So what I would say is practice the skulls, and do it a lot, and don't just do it from front, side, and three-quarter angle. Do it in different angles. Do it from angles that give you a bit of issues. Like for me, for instance, now one of the most difficult angles that I have is drawing things from. I have a reference here. Like drawing this from this angle here in this photo. So I have to sort of up my game whenever I'm working in that angle, so that I always find it difficult drawing in that angle. So I have to do a lot of practice. I have to do a lot of practice to improve myself, my skill in drawing from that angle instinctively. So if there's any, I know how to draw things from front, side, three-quarter angle, but when it comes to angles like this one, it gives me a little bit of a headache, and I have to lock in a bit more, so that it won't look like crap. The drawing won't look like crap. Essentially, is what I'm trying to say. So don't just draw things. Don't just. The essence of study is to push yourself out of your comfort zone, so that you can get better. Because if you are constantly drawing, we all did our um we all did the basics. Well, like when we're learning to read, we all did the basic. We all learned the basic words. But in order to get better at reading, or to be able to read better materials, or much more complex materials that are interesting to us, we had to learn much more complex words. We had to learn how to talk with words that have much more syllables than just that. We had to learn to talk with the syllabic words. We had to learn to read with read words that are that have more than one syllable, so that we can improve our lexicon. We can improve our how we read, and the types of materials that we can read. So it's the same thing you're going to apply when you are drawing. You don't just, everybody in the world can draw a circle, everybody can draw a triangle, but it's how to fuse these shapes in order to, you know, create something that's like in terms of drawing that looks good. That is the next stage. And if you keep just drawing just circles and triangles, it's the foundation, but learning how to fuse them together, it's a skill, and it's something you have to, work at. It's uncomfortable, and you have to, get better at it for you to be a better artist and things like this. Anyways, I've just embarrassed myself with this drawing of this head angle and whatnot. Because I was talking, I wasn't able to, do it well. It's not an excuse though. But anyways, hope you get the gist. So try and draw the skulls in different angles is what I'm trying to say. The tip for drawing the skull, right? Very simple, very simply, like some shapes you can remember. Let me just do it with you here. You draw your sphere, right? Then you put your center line, right? Your vertical and horizontal center line for the cranium, and then you put a box. You could put an Amazon box here like this. Put another Amazon box here like this. One way to be sure about your measurements for your cranium is once you draw the center line like this, one thing you could do is you could just draw vertical like this and then do 5 boxes or 3 boxes. Let's say 3 boxes. 1, 2, 3, yeah, and then you get the exact proportions for the face, and then you could add of course an extra box like to keep it even, like to get the correct distance between the orbit and the area of the ear, something like that. So that's a tip you can use when drawing the skull. So we have our sockets over here, and then you put an Amazon, a pyramid. You can put a pyramid at the bottom of your sphere, like this. Put a pyramid at the bottom of your, like this, and then you add your maxilla. You add your maxilla whenever you are drawing your sphere, like the rest of your head. One thing you could do is so that you can keep things proportional. I know I didn't apply this a lot when I was doing a lot of my rambling over here. But ideally, what you want to do is that when you're drawing the rest of the head, is you want to kind of give this same size, the length between this area and here. You kind of want to give that between here and here. It doesn't have to be exact, of course. People have different faces, but you could just draw a box like this. And then kind of put the rest of the face like this. Put the jaw like this. Like this. Then have it like this. Yes, and then you could have your maxilla. Then your maxilla would have it like this, which is going to represent where the nose and the upper jaw is going to be. And then you could have your, and you can kind of see the cylinder that I'm talking about with drawing this. And then of course you can then begin to add the rest of the details when drawing the skull. Add your zygomatic arc here. this. Then our lower jaw here. And just like that, we have our skull. Doesn't have to be exact, but some things you can note from drawing the skull in this angle is number one, um, sections or thirds, dividing it into thirds. So we have first 1/3 here, 1/3, 1/3. So we have our first third, which is going to be, our from this top over here to our hairline. Um, let's say the top to hairline or brow line. I mean to brow line, hairline to brow line, and then brow line to nose to nose, or bottom of the nose, and then bottom of the nose to the jaw, to the jawline. So these basic areas are what you need to remember when drawing when drawing in different in the front view. So when you look at the side view, draw a sphere first of all, and then you can put your box. You can make this the cranium a bit longer, like this. You put your box here, and then you put your Amazon boxes like this. Remember what I said, like looking at this as a box, and then partition it into the thirds. Yes, and then just like this, you can divide it into those boxes. That box I told you about here. Break them down like this, and then you add your maxilla. When I'm talking about this, don't just don't just look at them as simple shapes. Try to imagine them in 3D. That's what drawing in different angles is going to do for you. So when I was talking about the maxilla, you shouldn't just look at it as just this. You should look at it as something that is like a 3D object, something that has length, width, depth, that has form. You can look at it from different angles. So it's the same thing with the maxilla here. So that is how you should think about it anyways. And then you can see how my cylinder shape is helping me to get the upper and lower jaw easily. Not easily, I'm struggling here a bit, but essentially that is what it's doing. It's making it easier to draw. And then our zygomatic arc is going to be here. like this. And just like that, we have our cranium. Our cranium, I said our cranium. We have our skull from our three-quarter view, easily. Oh, not easily. This is poking out like this. And we have our our partitioning as well. Could use a triangle to draw that or not, whatever. I put this as my teeth. Yeah, and then we have a no. And then we'll have our side view. The side view, you can use a sphere, of course, and then you eventually go and extend it, or you could just do like an ovoid shape, like I talked about, and then add your box like this. Then you'll be good to go. And then add your box like this. Add your maxilla. Remember what I told you about the maxilla being 3D? So you could add that like that. And then don't forget the zygomatic arc like this. I think I did that. And yes, that is our skull and the side view. And what's going on? Doing this practice as much as possible is very important so that you can improve drawing the head. And you're going to see, I'm going to try and get portraits in these angles so that you can see how they can be broken down. So I hope I have some portraits. Yes. You'll see how they can be broken down. I have this app here. So you're going to see this guy now in front view, how you break him down with the knowledge of the skull that we have. If you were to draw this guy now, right, of course, the center line, our brow line, of course, and our boxes. One, two, three, four, 5 boxes, and then the nose. and then the mouth, which is going to be here. Then I'll draw. And with my understanding of how the skull works, I've been able to easily break this down with good proportions. And the mouth. And what I've done here basically is a study, and this is how I'll do different studies to improve my drawing on my understanding of the human skull, of the human head, and how to draw it in different angles. And you can see how the lighting is helping to show us the how the skull is affecting the shape of his head. Basically, that's it about drawing the skull. It's that simple. And if you do comics, if you are someone that's going to do a lot of comics, means you're going to do a lot of figure drawing, you're going to do a lot of portraits, you're going to do a lot of head angles. Knowing this is very important, so that you can create simplified versions using boxes and whatnot, so that you can draw and things like that. So this is very important. This is it's like you're not going to just learn this in a day, and you're not just going to be at level 100 with this in a day. You have to keep doing this over and over again. Let's do a 3/4 angle. And yeah, just like that, we have our head. And this, what I've just done over here is, I've just done a study, and whether I like it or not, I've just improved by a certain percentage. It may not look exactly like this reference that I have over here, but this study has improved my understanding of the human skull in general. So I encourage you to do this, and do this breakdown. Try to understand what it looks like. Try to understand the parts of. Try to understand the parts that actually make up the human skull, and then get a 3D model like this. You could use a 3D model, or you could use an actual real life reference. You could use your own face. You could go to Pinterest, get reference photos in different angles, and then do studies. Another thing you can do to improve your drawing of the human head is to draw with planes. And by drawing with planes, I'm talking about knowing the androluminous planes of the head, and something like this. So once you've learned your basic shape like this, you also learn something extra that can also elevate your drawing, especially when you're drawing portraits, from Pinterest and whatnot. You learn the planes of the head, things like this. Something like this. It looks something like this. I mean, let me do a mistake. something like this. There are these lines that actually make up the head how the head looks. After you have your basic shape like this, and then you have something like this. You can use an asaro head to get it. Um, it looks like this. And then the fulcrum. There are two planes. If you look at the androgynes planes of the head, there are two planes. You have the primary plane and then the secondary planes of the head. So I'm going to show you an image of the plane. You just go online and check it out. But I'm just testing my memory of what the planes look like. I know what they look like, but sometimes I don't get it exactly. And getting it exactly is important because it's going to help you with accuracy. And you can see how I'm constantly doing corrections as I'm walking. It's because the planes, they are informing how things should look, so I'm correcting myself without necessarily um, looking at anything. So these planes are important. So whenever you look at a portrait and you're trying to study a portrait, right, you can take these planes and just put them on top. um, uh, how do I draw a nose? Let's see how to draw a nose. Yeah. So this is also very important. Yeah. Yeah, this is for the mouth. Yeah. It looks something like this basically. And I didn't do this well. I'm coming. Yeah, but the planes look something like this, and they are important because when you start working with colors, you begin to see, like why the light is hitting a certain place and how to apply shadows. You know why, like whenever the sun is, like for instance, this image right here, right? When you look at it, you can see the light is coming from the right side, right? The light is coming from the right side, and because it's coming from the right side, there's going to be shadow in this area and just a little bit of shadow in this area, in this plane like this, and there's going to be a huge shadow over here like this because this bridge of the nose is like a mountain that is high like this, and because light is hitting it, there's going to be a cast shadow um, on this ground plane like this. That's what's happening with the nose. And then for this other side too, because of the nostrils and the septum of the nose is up, you're going to also see shadow in this area. So that's what planes does basically. If the light is coming from the top, you're going to see the shadows in different areas, and that's what knowing the planes of the face is. And also, just like with the skull, you have to draw the planes in different angles. How do I do? It's a bit similar. It's not exact, but it's a bit similar. I got the gist. Yeah, I got the gist. I'll probably give it a 6 out of 10. So yeah, also learn the planes of the head, or the Asaro planes of the head, or the Androlomis planes of the head. Very important. Another simplified thing to do is just to use boxes. Boxes are very important. Front view, side view, three-quarter view, any view. You can just use boxes and then put the thirds of the face, and then you're good to go in terms of the head. So another thing you could do is the paper fold method. It's very similar to the box method. They're basically the same thing. It's where you just have something like this, like a paper. If you take a sheet of paper and then you fold it, and then you demarcate brow line, nose line, mouth line, jaw line. Yeah. Then what am I doing? You demarcate. You put the thoughts. Use this to basically tell you. Just imagine a paper, and then you use it to help direct how the face is going to look. Because sometimes, no matter how hard I try, I just can't seem to use a sphere to actually get the different angles of the face that I'm looking for. So this is very useful, and you just apply your yeah. So just that's another thing you can apply using let's say folded paper method. Yeah, I'm going to do a video where I practice using the planes to draw the head, and using a simplified skull, drawing a simplified skull, and then drawing a face on top. That will be later though. But right now I want to talk about the eyes. The eyes made up of a sphere, and most people just make the mistake of not using this basic shape whenever I'm drawing the eye. As you can see, when I was breaking down the skull, I used a box shape for the orbit, right, or the eye socket, and then in that box shape there's going to be a sphere over here like this, because the eye is not just staying in suspension in our head. It's actually held together by muscles, and it's in the socket, right? It's in the socket. So, and the eyeball is going to sit like this. Yes. On the socket, we'll have our brow ridge here. So, so the parts of the eye, we have our eyeball or sclera. How was that calling it, sclera? And we have our iris. So the thing about the eyeball is that when you are studying it, you could just look at it as a leaf, as a ball, right, in different angles. So you have your ball over here, right, and then you have, just like with the head, you're going to have a center line for where you're going to place your iris. The iris is the colored part of the eye. So some people's iris are brown, some are black, some are blue, some are green, hazel, whatever. But you have your center line like this to place your iris. And this practice is very important because when the eyes is rotating, you can use this practice to help place the iris in different angles, to help place the eyes in different angles. And the thing about the eyeball is that when the eyeball is moving, it's going to affect the shape of the eyelid. But let's just go to the pupil. The pupil is that black dot in the eye, in the iris. Is that black dot in the iris, and it dilates and contracts with the exposure of light. Like if you have a camera, when you take your phone and then you put light closer to your eyes, the closer you bring the light to your eyes and your face, you're going to see that your pupils is going to become smaller because it's trying to reduce the amount of information. It has kind of like an overload of information that is entering, light information that's entering the eye, so it doesn't need a lot. But when you're in a very pitch black environment, this is our iris. When you're in a very pitch black environment, your iris expands, your pupil expands because it is trying to get it's trying to see how much information it can get. Basically, your pupil expands, and when it's in very close to light, it reduces. So this reduces and increases with exposure to light. So that's our pupil. The next part is our cornea. So our cornea is this transparent contact-like lens on our eye. It's transparent, so people don't really see it. You see it, but you don't. It's kind of like a force field around the eye that protects our iris, and it also helps with light. So when you see your iris, your eyeball, your sclera or your eyeball, and then you see your iris, and then you see your pupil, the cornea is actually here, but it's invisible. But how you know it's there is because of the light information. So let's just look at this from a side view. So this is our eyeball, then we have our iris, and then we're going to have our pupil like this. Is that correct? That's not correct. We're going to have our pupil like this, actually. And then you're going to have your cornea going to pop out like this. So your cornea is just convex. It's convex in nature. Yeah, the cornea is convex in nature. So it's going to pop out like this, and it's going to kind of be like a shield. And the thing about the cornea and iris is that, so because the cornea is like this, yeah, in the eye, let's say this is our eye, and this our iris. The cornea, the pupil is like this. The iris is curved like this, right? So our cornea is going to be curved. It's curved a little bit like this. So it's like a plate. So whenever light hits it like this, the light is going to hit. Let's put it like this. There is going to be a sort of highlight at this part of the eye, right? So when you look at an eye, let me just quickly draw an eye. When you look at an eye like this, and then you have your iris, and then you have your pupil let's say our iris is colored like this, yes, and then you see this little highlight over here. Let me use this pen. You see this highlight. Why isn't it drawn? You see this highlight over here, right? You see this highlight over here, and then you see, oh my god, what am I doing? And then you see this part of the eye usually is going to be darker with the pupil here. But this part of the eye, this section of the eye is a bit brighter, but you are not seeing it because it is a cornea and because it's transparent. So you are just going to see just this highlight, because whenever light hits glass, if you look at glass is transparent, right? Whenever light hits glass, you will see highlights of the glass, right? You may see what is going like through that glass, but you're not going to see, you're going to see whatever it's through that glass, but you're not going to see you know, the shadows of that glass necessarily. You're just going to see the highlight, and that's the cornea at play here. So when the light hits this area, it's kind of hitting it's hitting this peak, because, you know, oh my god, because it's peaking like this, it's having this shape, so it's hitting that part. But because of the angle of the iris, so the iris is curved like this, yes, what that means is that this light is hitting this part of the cornea, but it's also hitting this part of the iris. So this other part is going to be in shadow, while this part is where the light, so it's going to kind of be different. So while this part is receiving light for the cornea, this part is going to be receiving light for the iris, and this part is going to be left in shadow. That's why whenever you look at an eye, I should have a reference for an eye here. Should have a reference for an eye. Now if you look at this eye, you're seeing that the light is kind of coming, like, you're seeing that the light is kind of coming from the right, yes. So the light is going to hit the part of the eye that is, because the cornea is poking forward, right? It's going to hit the cornea first, and it's going to have that light there, while the iris, the other part of the iris, is not going to receive the light. I really hope I explained that well. It's not confusing. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to help you like understand how it works, so that you kind of know where to place the light, because the light, when it hits the cornea, is different from where the light in the iris is located usually. So yeah, that's just the gist about the eye and the cornea. And when the eye is like kind of moving, when you are moving the eyeball side to side, it's affecting the shape of the eyelid. I don't know if I've said that before. But anyways, let's go to the eyelid, since I've been talking about the eyelids. The eyelids are basically the clothes. They're the clothes for the eyes. So they kind of move like a Pac-Man. This is our eyeballs, and they're like this machinery that opens and closes like this, and this, they open and close. What am I doing? Yeah, they are like this, they open and close, and they have planes, right? What that means is that they are like they're a 3D object, obviously. So and you should draw them as such. So they are like the upper and lower eyelids. Let's say this is our eye, our eyeball, our iris, our pupil, and you want to apply the eyelid on this. You're going to put planes, and one easy way to draw the planes of the eyelids is that the planes of the upper eyelids are, we have one, two, three, right? And then one, two. And this is our eyelid. So it's something like this. Something like this, essentially. Something like this, and they open and close. So you can just use three planes, and the peaks of these eyelids are, they have diagonal shapes. So when you look at them, so one, two, three, right, and one, two, like this. So it kind of gives it this interesting. They're not asymmetrical. That is the upper and the lower plane. They're not symmetrical. I mean, they're asymmetrical. So they have this kind of interesting shape when you look at them. So if you've been doing this before, where you just draw your eye like this, I mean, obviously it's possible for some people to have eyes like this. You can upgrade from this level to this level and just make it a little bit interesting by adding more planes. So here we have just one plane and another plane here, right? Of course, some people's eyes are like this, and there are instances where you draw this and it will work. But you can just make it a bit more interesting by saying one, two, three, yes, and then one, two, and then add your tear duct at this plane. And because of this angle, we are not going to be seeing extra planes of this, and you're going to see these folds. So they create folds because they're skin on the face, and then because they are a 3D object and they are a plane, they are part of the reason why there are shadows. Like if you look at this lady's eyes here, you're going to see there's a sort of gradation, and that is being caused by the eyelids. So because her eye is blue, it's not exactly blue, it's a bit of shadow around the eyes, and then there's a light that is poking in to the cornea, like that. And the upper plane of the eye is is causing a shadow, and also the lower plane of the eye also creates a bit of shadow, because when you look at the eye, let's say we're looking at the planes of the eye, and we're kind of looking at the eye in this angle, and of course this is, let's say this is like this, and then our eye is like this. You're seeing that this part of the eye is poking out a little bit. It doesn't happen to everybody, but this part of the eye is poking out a little bit. And sometimes it could be in shadow, but there are cases where light could be hitting just a little part of this side eye. And then because this bottom plane of the eyelid is facing down, you're going to see there's going to be shadow around the eyes like this, around the eye bags and whatnot that look like that. And same thing, because this brow ridge is is casing these eyes and the eyebrow as well, you're going to see shadow in that area. Same thing with the nose, because this bridge is up, is going to be receiving more light while this doesn't receive light. And then the mouth also, this side is going to receive light, even though there will be a little bit of a cast shadow here, but this filtrum area, this vermilion border on the mouth, is going to be receiving light, while the bottom lip, because of its position, is also going to be receiving light, right, because of its shape, but the upper lip is not going to be receiving light. And that is how there is this kind of interesting relationship with light and dark on the face whenever you look at it. is very interesting and it's important to take note of. So yeah, with the eyelid, that is that is it for the eyelid. That is it for the eyelid. If I remember any other thing, I'll speak on it. But the next thing is the eyelashes. The eyelashes are, like, they are kind of like this protection for the eyes from, dust particles, debris, and whatnot. And one interesting way to draw the eyelashes to get them correctly is that, don't draw the eyelashes like a bug, bless me, like a bug or freaking paramecium. Yeah, don't draw them like this, because you see now it kind of looks like a bug, right? A bug that is, crawling. um there's this trick that I use whenever I'm drawing the eyelashes that helped me, my eyelashes to look better, and that is having a center line, right? So you make this the center of your eye, and then you draw this like this, and then you create radial lines across the eyes like this. So you just used do this around the eyelashes. These lines, they're kind of like guidelines for you, and then you can apply your eyelashes. And your eyelashes are not just, single lines like this. You could draw them in chunks or clumps. And what I mean by that is, instead of just doing just one, and this could work in some cases, especially when you're zooming into detail and whatnot, but you could do better by just putting them together like this and then drawing them. Male or female, it doesn't matter, but usually an indication of a female is usually when they add more eyelashes to them. So, and there are different types. They could be the ones that just pop up like this, or the ones that some people have longer lashes, some people have shorter lashes, or generally this is how you kind of apply the eyelashes, and it looks a bit more natural and prettier. The lower lids have lashes, but they are not that much unless they're applied, unless the artificial ones they're applied. Well, yeah, this is how I would approach drawing my eyelashes, and even to the side view as well. The side view, the eyelashes to the side view are also quite easy to draw. But anyways, that's it for the eyelashes. And then another thing you need to know is the placement of the eyes. Placement of the eyes on the face. So when you look at this is where I'm going to always bring it back to drawing the skull, right? So when you look at the skull, yeah, you have your, like, when you look at the skull, like, one thing I talk about is using boxes. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 boxes. What do I do there? You have 5 boxes. You have 5 boxes on the brow line, right? So learn your Androlumis, how to draw the head using the sphere and whatnot, or learn how to draw the skull. Is going to be very helpful for placement, right? So this is serving as a vertical and horizontal guideline already. So our skull, our eye socket is going to be here. Our eye socket is going to be here, right? And the eye socket is where the eyeball sits in, and our eyeball is going to sit over here like this, and then our iris, and then our pupil is somewhere in there, and then you add our eyelids, like this, and then we've successfully placed our eye. You're going to have our glabella in the middle, or the keystone area. I forgot to talk about the eyebrows. Yeah, but our eyebrows are going to be there, and between the eyes, to the space between the eyes, is where the nose is going to be. And all in this cranium area. And when you look at the eyes from a side view, there is this mistake of placing the eyes too close to this area here, right? But it does sit a bit backwards, like from it. And then you can place your eyes like this. Believe it or not, there are people that do make the mistake of, when they are drawing the eye in the side view, they tend to do this. Just draw the eye like this. I mean, I know it does look kind of cool, but it's not, they draw a full eye for the side view. And I know it's kind of making sense sometimes, but that's not how it looks realistically. So it's better to just put it like this, just like that Pac-Man shape, like this. Then you are good to go, and it's it's much more easier, to be honest. So yeah, that is it for the eye placement. I hope I didn't miss anything. The eye placements on the face. There's another thing. When you are looking at the eyes from a 3/4 angle, like this lady over here, just like I said with drawing the head in 3/4 angle, you have your center line here, which is going to serve as your brow ridge. So you could use that box theory that I talked about. So 1, 2, box 1, 2, 3, or whatever, and then you place the eye. Now the thing is that when you're drawing the eye, when the head is a bit turned like this lady here, the nose usually interferes with the look of the eye, right? I'm going to look for a different angle from this. The nose kind of interferes with the eye. So one thing you could do is, when you are drawing the eye in this angle, just draw the ball inside the socket. Yeah, not like this. The ball isn't going to be like this. No, it's in the skull. So it's going to be like this, and the perspective is affecting how it looks. Yeah, the perspective is affecting how it looks. So this is our socket, and this would be our eyeball. And then you apply the planes on it. And in some instances, the full side of this eye doesn't show. The full side of this eye doesn't show. So kind of take note of that when you're drawing. Anyway, I'm going to look at another angle. So look at this angle, look at his eye in this angle. A mistake people make is they just I keep saying the planes of the eyes are, 3D. Yeah. So if you actually observe the eyelid there, like in that far, the eyes in that far left to us, you're going to see how the eyeball is poking out in this area. Now lower lid over there like that. You're not going to see everything. You're not going to see everything. And the nose, you're not going to see the entire eye, because of the location of the nose. And when you kind of practice, just banging on that gate like that. When you practice the eye a bit more, you're going to continually get this correctly. So another thing is about the eyelids is the position of the lids. Just like I keep saying, the upper and lower lids, right? Like this lid over here now, in this angle, you can see that this area is dark. This area of the lid is dark. And that is because it is receding from the light. It is receding from the light. While you can see the lower lid over here like this, it's you are seeing that there is a bit of highlight in that area, and the plane of the lower lid over here like this, the bottom plane of the lower lid, there is shadow over there. And these are important tips to note that can make your drawing look a bit more convincing, realistic, and whatever other look that you want it to have. So these are things to take note of when you're drawing the eyes. So another thing is about expressions. When you're drawing the eyes in different expressions, you should know that the things that make the eyes move the way they do is because of the muscles around the eye. And it's the same thing with our mouth when we look at it. When we smile, when we laugh, there are muscles that are actually aiding that process in our face. So just have that at the back of your mind. When you're looking at the eye, and practice a lot of expressions, because what will make your character interesting is when you draw expressions, right? So when you're looking at the expressions of the there can be like an oversimplification where, if you look at manga or cartoons, you can use simple shapes like a semicircle to give different expressions. You can tell a lot of story with just the eye, how the eye looks, the shape of the pupils and the iris in the eye as well. You can create a really cute character. So you could tell a lot of story with the position of the eye and also the eyebrow as well. You can see this guy here already telling something with his eyebrow. So yeah, these are practices you can do to get better. You could do, simplifications, and when we talk about simplification, we're talking about reductions. We're talking about, not drawing it realistically, and taking some, will I say, licenses, not adding everything that would make it look like it. So a bit, we are doing a bit of impressions. So like with this eye right now, we're not seeing the exact tear duct and whatnot that are in a natural eye. We're not, because we are just, oversimplifying using simple shapes. And once you do this over and over again, you're going to figure out your art style and the reductions you like making. Because there are some people, when they draw eyes and they draw there are some art styles that you're going to see. They just draw the upper lids, and you see this in cartoons. They just draw the upper lids and then they draw the irises of the characters, right? Or sometimes they could draw the upper and lower lids, and they wouldn't add lashes. What am I talking about? What am I talking about? Essentially, what I'm trying to say is that, um, you could still achieve what you want without necessarily adding a lot of details when you are drawing the eyes. But it's important to learn these essentials first and do practices with them. So you could do practices on how the eyelids work in different angles, how the eyeball works. So one trick you could do, one exercise you could do, is that you could draw a ball and then use like a leaf to represent the eyelid. You could use like a leaf to represent the eyelid, and you're doing this in the front view. Remember our um, center line to position where our eye is going to be, and then the leaf to represent the eye in this angle. What am I drawing? The eye in this angle, and because the eye is in this angle, you're going to see the bottom plane of the upper lid, right? You're going to see it like this in the eye, and then same thing for when you're looking at it from the bottom view. You're going to see more of the top plane of the bottom lid. I'll tear duct over there. You're going to see that, and the eyelash could be in the way. Yeah, in a 3/4 angle. um, just apply a leaf and then show our bottom lid, and then our tear duct to the far side. So you could just do this ball and leaf exercises to really capture how the eyes looks, and improve your and improve your drawing of the eye. Essentially is what I'm trying to say, especially if you're starting out. So another thing I would talk about is the nose, drawing the nose. Just quickly. Also do practices. So like this lady's eyes over here, right? You just take your time and actually do an exercise. I actually did an exercise of this. I did an exercise of this. Let me show you. Oh my god, I hope this thing was recording. Oh my god, it wasn't. It wasn't recording, man. That's crazy. Um, Anyways, the main video was recording, so I'll take that. Anyways, I was doing a study of this eye. So if you look at this works here, this lady's eyes, I was actually doing a study of this lady's eyes here. Hopefully I'll get back to it one day and just finish the study. um, I know about it, but I do it so that I can improve myself, so that I can, you know, get better. So these are images I saw from Pinterest, and I downloaded them and then copied them, so that, just seeing something is and actually trying to practice drawing that thing are two different things. You may feel like you have the skill to do it, but then you discover maybe something that is missing in your art skill whenever you're actually drawing it. Um, Same thing here. Same thing here. So these are practices that you do to improve your drawing of the eye. And I didn't just do that for just the eye, I did that for other parts of the body, of the face as well. So the next thing we are going to move into is drawing the nose. I always talk about basic shapes. When you're drawing the nose, the basic shape that you're going to see is mostly a trapezium. You're going to see triangles and then pyramids. So you're going to see this shape like this. And you're going to see a triangle shape. It's going to be used a lot. And then you're going to see a pyramid shape. These are the main shapes when drawing the nose, and they help you a lot in placing the nose and also getting it in the right angle. So once you have this in your head, and what I mean by this is that you use this and do studies. So let's say we have our oh my god, we have our guy over here, and you want to place his head. And let's say if you're a total beginner, this can help, because I can just draw this and get his face right, and then I can just put this pyramid or this triangle over here like this, and I've gotten his face. Or I could just use this other shape and just place the this shape over here like this, and I've gotten his nose, and then I could go on and then detail from there. So learning this basic shape and then learning the androlomus planes of the head is going to be helpful when doing this. So now I'm going to do a breakdown of these shapes. So there's a much more complex version of these planes, right? But with this information, you're good to go. So we have our nose here, right? So we have our nose here. I'm going to show you the basic shapes I use to practice to get better at the nose. But let's just put the nose out first. So when you look at a skull, let's look at the skull. Where's the skull? Where's the skull? When you look at a skull, you're going to see we're going to focus on the nose. Yeah. You're going to see this area. The nose starts from this area over here, this space here. And this space here is called the glabella, or the keystone area. Right, this triangular area here, and that's where the nose starts from. And then you're going to see a poke over here like this, just this little part here. That's the nasal bone. and then you're going to see this space over here for the nostril. I don't know the official name. We call the root of the septum or something. I don't know, sure. But this basic shape is very important, and then you have to try, and also draw it from a three-quarter view as well, so that you get how it looks. It's not the complete nose. It's just a part. It's just a part of the nose. It's not a complete nose. It's just a part of the nose, and then this shape over here, this slope over here like this, that is our maxilla. This area over here like this, that is our maxilla. And then yeah, and that's the major parts when you're looking at it from the skeleton. So the nose is mostly cartilage. So when you look at the nose, and let's look at it from a side view. So when you look at the nose in a side view like this, we have our nasal bone here, and then our talking about the maxilla, like this area around here is the maxilla, and it's also called the upper jaw. So just take note of that. Anyways, let's look at our. So we have our nasal bone like this, and like I said, the nose is mostly cartilage. So once we have our nasal bone, then we are going to have the bridge of the nose. The bridge of the nose. So this is going to be the upper cartilage, or the lateral. It's also called the lateral cartilage. Yeah, and then this other part is going to be the lower cartilage, or the what the hell have I drawn? Anyways, let's put it like this: the lower cartilage, or the ball of the nose. This part here, the lower cartilage. Let me just write it down. Or the ball of the nose. And then we're going to have our nostrils over here like this. You can call them, I call them the rockets of the nose. You can also call them the wings of the nose. And then we're going to have our septum below there. So that is just a simple breakdown of the nose and how it looks. And with this information, you can then apply it. I'm going to show you a much more detailed diagram of this. Hopefully I downloaded one. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Yeah, I think this guy did it better. No. Yeah. Anyways, this is a very good. I got this image from Sketchfab, 3D plane of the nose. So you can see that basic shape I was talking about. So the pyramid. It's what you should practice a lot, because when you start rotating the head, when it's time to rotate the head in the top view, you're going to see this placement of the nose is like this, and then the nose is going to rise up like this. Or this simple shape, this simple triangular shape is what is going to help you to properly place the head in an angle that is going to suit, that is going to make sense, so that it won't look, your character won't look off. Then the nostrils. So this basic shape over here, is very important. So we have our the wings of our nose, like this. The wings of our nose, like this. And then our upper cartilage over here. I can put your filtrum over here. Yeah, so just get realistic noses and try and get breakdowns. Get breakdowns of the nose as well, very important. Get breakdowns of the nose and actually draw them. But this is the basics, and these basic shapes are what you are going to use to actually draw the nose in different angles, in the front view, in the side view, the three-quarter view, and it was also going to help with the shading of the nose. So that when you see a nose like this, even when there is a lot of light on the face, right? When there is a lot of light on the face, you are going to know how to properly break it down. So because I know because I know my brow line is over here, right? And I didn't do this well. I know my nose line is that nose line? Is there anything like that? Nose line is over here, and my mouth line is over here, right? I can then, place my nose properly. One thing you could do, I forgot to say this, a simple plane you could use is also a triangle like this. You just use that and also draw the plane of the nose. The ball of the nose over here, I know my nostrils is over here, my two nostrils, and then I know why I would put this line over here a bit, as you can see, like this. Yeah, it's not going to be complicated at all for you when you just understand this basics. So yeah, that's it for the nose. If I missed anything, I'm just going to come back to it and talk about it. So the placement of the nose on the face is the nose sits in between the eyes. Yeah, in between the eyes here, and straight down to the mouth. So the mouth is just a little bit, above it, to the side, to the width. That's the width of the nose. So these guidelines are going to help you when drawing the nose, and then you can place your eyes here. You can place your eyes here. Yeah. And you're good, for the nose. So yeah, that is important to know, but you're not just going to come about this knowledge at a single go. So keep practicing and you're going to get better. Another thing we're going to talk about is lastly, I think, is the mouth. So with the mouth, I'm going to say it again. You know what I'm going to say, right? Yes, you have to learn to draw the skull. The skull is important, but so that you don't make the mistake of drawing like a flat mouth. Yes, so with the mouth, you could use, when you're studying, you could use simple cylinder to draw the mouth, to practice drawing the mouth so that you don't have to draw the whole face. And then you could use like a barrel shape, or a barrel shape, that's what I'm saying. A barrel shape to draw the mouth. So this is going to represent our upper jaw, and this is going to represent our lower jaw. And we're going to start seeing this coming to life. You know, one mistake people make is drawing the mouth, like stickers, right? This could, this is art, right? This is art. This is art. There's nothing wrong with this. But if you're trying to give your art a certain look, like let it look a bit three-dimensional, the mouth is not a sticker. It's not flat like this. You have to try and add a little bit of finesse, right, to make the mouth look a bit more three-dimensional. And what that means is that you should not be drawing like thick, consistent lines like this, right? You should add it with a bit of finesse, right? So there's not going to be lines everywhere on the mouth. There's not going to be lines everywhere on the mouth. Right? And this looks a bit better. This looks a bit better. So when you are drawing the mouth, you should also be thinking about the jaw, because the teeth is part of the mouth, the tongue is part of the mouth, the maxilla is part of the mouth as well. So when you are drawing it, you need to be thinking about the whole shape in general. And sometimes the shape is of the jaw is simply this, right? This is the shape of the jaw, and or something like this, horseshoe shape. So which is where our teeth is going to be. This is the lower jaw, by the way. This is the lower jaw. So these are the shapes that you should be thinking about in your head when you are drawing. So this is our teeth. This will be our lower teeth. One mistake people make when drawing the teeth is that they could give it a piano-like look whenever they are drawing it. What that means is that this is our mouth, right? This is our mouth, and then someone would just do this as the teeth, right? That's not wrong. That's not right. When you are drawing the teeth, try to, just like I talked about with the mouth, you don't need to draw every single premolar, molar, and incisors. Sometimes you just need to draw just the shape of the teeth, and you're good to go. Something like this. I hope that makes sense. And then you're good to go. Yeah, that's it with the teeth. But anyways, I'm being a bit scattered brain here, but let's just break down the mouth. Like I've talked about the maxilla, which is this part of the jaw that kind of houses that nostril part. Nostril is here, and then we'll have our maxilla here. And then our mandible is going to be this guy over here. So we have our teeth. We could have our teeth like this. Yeah. So when you are drawing the when you are looking at the skull, right? If you look at the skull from the side view, you're going to see that there is a bit of a, let me draw this quickly. There's a bit of like something that looks like a knot over here. Right here are that joints to make up the lower jaw, right? Something as if it's like it looks like a screw, essentially. And the purpose of that is to help with speech and the movement of the mouth. And what that does is that it creates a hinge movement whenever you're talking, or whenever you're screaming, or whenever you are laughing, right? And the way it works is that it moves like this back and forth, right? But the mistake some people make is that they it's as if when they are drawing it, they separate. What that means is that when you are drawing the skull, right? When you are drawing the skull, when you are drawing the skull, it's going to be, the mouth is going to move like this. The mouth is going to move like this. The mouth is going to move like this. Meanwhile, the way some people draw it is that it's as if this part of the mouth just moves downward like this. And that's not how the mouth works. That's what I'm trying to say. So, this is a practice you can do when you're drawing. Yeah. Yeah, so that is one tip when you're looking at the upper and the lower jaw. When you're looking at the teeth as well, remember this horseshoe shape. So when you're looking at the mouth or the lips in general, so when our lips, the planes of the lips, if you look at the anadromous planes of the mouth, right, you can see we have the philtrum over there, and we also have this plane. 1, 2, 3. One, two, 3, 4, 5, 6. What some people do about this plane is that they could also add it. They could also just make it 1, 2, 3, and then just do how am I doing? And just do 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's what some people do. So the thing about the lip is that we have the vermilion border, which is just this little light around here, and then we have the cupid's bow, which is this, and then we have this V shape that's usually in the mouth. Let me look for this. This mouth doesn't, not all mouths have it, but you can add it. And then that's for the upper lip. So the upper lip and lower lip have fat parts. What that means is that, like, you could look at them as pillows. So we have 1, 2, and then you could say 1, 2, and then there's this little one here to make it 3. And then you've drawn your mouth essentially. So this is one trick that can help you when you're drawing your mouth. But anyways, we have this center line over here. And then we have our lower lip. And then we have our lower lip. There's this. Some people call this the T line, right? Or you could look at it as a dark triangle. So you could put something like this, a dark triangle like this, or you could put, the T line, just to add a little bit of personality to the lip in general. So the way some people look at it is that you could look at the upper lip as a seagull, to have a seagull shape, right? Like a bird flying, a seagull, a pigeon, or whatever. And then you could look at this space between that as the waves that the seagull is flying on. And then you could look at this lower lip as the reflection of that seagull on the waves. And you have your mouth. Of course, a lot of these things disappear when the mouth is open, but when you are drawing portraits, you usually see that the mouth is usually closed, or it's just slightly opened or whatever. So it's very important to learn this when you're drawing. Yeah. So that is just it about the mouth. Of course, there are mouth expressions when you're drawing. When you're drawing expressions of your characters, try to keep the score in your head, so that you won't make the character look weird when you're drawing this. I will try to do like little focuses on the character. So for instance, let's look at the score right over here. To do the neck real quick. The way the neck works, basically, the basic shape is, of course, draw your head, right? And then a curved cylinder basically is the shape of the neck, a curved cylinder. And this cylinder could change depending on the position of that neck, right? It could change depending on the position of that neck. So it could be something like this. So when you draw your head, of course, you put your cylinder here like this, basic shape. Your head extends a bit more like this. And this is the basic shape of the neck, right? Cylinder and then the head shape. The head shape is the circle and then the wedge. That wedge shape. So when you look at the neck from the front view, let's look at it from the front view. Of course, we have our neck like this, then we have our shoulders or whatever, right? The major muscles of the neck are the sternocleidomastoid, sternocleidomastoid, the sternocleidomastoid. What am I thinking? The trapezius. Don't forget the collarbone or the clavicle. We have the sternum. And then we have the infrahyoid and super, I think is it supra? Superhyoid. I'm going to say I'm going to say superhyoid. In the infrahyoid, the muscle you are going to be seeing most is the omohyoid. So, of course, the neck has the hyoid bone. The hyoid bone is the bone is the only bone in the body that doesn't have that is not connected to any to another bone in the body. It's the only bone that doesn't have a connection with another bone in the body. So, the suprahyoid bone are both here. That those are the bones that are located um, like just like where the mandible is located. That's where they are. So we have the suprahyoid bone above, and then the infrahyoid bone, um, infrahyoid muscles below. Infrahyoid muscles above, and the infrahyoid muscles below, and the suprahyoid muscles above. So that is what it looks like. So I'm going to kind of draw that here. So the sternum, let's draw the head first. Let's put this jaw. Let's put a jaw here, somewhere here. What the hell am I doing? Let's put this like this. Yeah. So the neck, the muscles of the neck is going to connect from the base of the neck, the from the root of the ear, right, all the way to the clavicle and the sternum. Let's just use this as our sternum, as our clavicle, and then our sternum is going to be this guy over here. So the sternocleidomastoid is called that because it is connected to the sternum, it's connected to the clavicle, which is the clido, and then the mastoid, which is the mastoid process behind the skull, at the bottom of the skull, right at the root of the ear. So that muscle is going to come here, it's going to create a V shape, basically. Create a V shape, and the shape of each of the muscle is going to be like a Y. Of course, the muscle is far more bigger than this. Or let's just use this. So this is the sternocleidomastoid. The next muscle is going to be the trapezius muscle. These are the two most important muscles people look at whenever they are looking at the muscles of the neck, essentially. This comes here like this. And over here we have our neck. And the next muscle that we'll look at is this over here. I've mentioned the collarbone. The infrahyoid connects from here downwards. They come here like this. So it's going to come here like this and creates this sort of shape. And then there's one more muscle I'm missing. It lies below this muscle, but I've forgotten the name. But I do know that it goes scaling. That's the name. It's the scaling muscle. It does go over here like this, and it helps with shrugs. That muscle helps with shrugs. So I'm just going to put it like that. And these are the muscles of the neck. And then the next thing you're going to do is, try and draw these muscles in different angles. These basic muscles in different angles. And when you're drawing the neck isn't straight like this. Don't draw the neck straight like this. Try not to draw the neck straight like this. The neck is curved. It's a curved cylinder. So just try to do that whenever you're drawing the neck, because there's this little bump over here like this, and then goes all the way down like this to the our lumbar area, and then of course our head is going to be like this. It makes it a bit more like interesting, and it looks a bit more natural. Collarbone over here, our shoulder blade, I mean. Anyways, so on the side view, our neck is coming from here all the way down here. I'm drawing over from here all the way down here. It has a reverse Y look. And then our trapezius muscle is going to be coming from here, like this. It's called the trapezius because from the back view, it does have this type of look. And it's like a group of four muscles that come to create like a diamond shape. And then we'll see our sternocleidomastoid from the back, going to be poking out like this to that base of the neck. That's not right. Like this, down here like this. Let's look at this guy in 3D. Look at this guy from the back view. You're going to see that there is a bit, when you're looking at him, there's a bit of there's a lot of shadow here. You see at his neck area, there's a bit of this that is happening. Yeah, and then there's this is happening at his neck area. And then his jaw is at this area, and then his ear is at this area, right? So that muscle in that area, this is the triceps. It goes all the way to the back of the neck, right? Like this, and then stretches down like this just a little bit. And this dude over here is our sternocleidomastoid. So yeah, that is it. What I would say, I could talk a bit more on this, but I have a video on drawing the neck. You can check it out. Do studies on this, so get the neck in different angles and actually try to draw them. But this is the basics, and I'm tired. I'll probably talk more on this. There are a lot of topics on this, subtopics on this that can be discussed, but I'm tired. I'm going to do something else, and I have another work to do. Hopefully you got something from this video. Please like and subscribe. Make sure to hit the notification bell. Trying to get to 1,500 subscribers, so I would really appreciate it if you can help me get there. If you have any questions, please let me know. Like the video, subscribe the video once more, click on the notification bell. I'll try to draw more consistently. It takes time to actually get good, so for consistent practice and effort, you're going to get better. So keep drawing, keep practicing, and stay creative, guys. I'll see you soon.